Well, what a nice crowd we have today. This is kind of nice. We've got people, of course, from the beautiful provinces of Ontario and Alberta, and we've got folks from all over the great United States of America, including people from the Hawkeye state of Iowa, the volunteer state of Tennessee. We've got folks from Massachusetts, the Peach State in Georgia, the Golden State in California. How cool is that? So, good day, everyone, and welcome to this session entitled IndustriOS on the Cloud. My name is Jacques Ticari. I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Industrial Software. And I'm quite jazzed about the topic of today's webinar, what it represents to our industrials customers, and also about the people that we've chosen to partner with to bring you industrials on the cloud. So I'm joined on this call by several colleagues. First of all, Joe Kudzik is an account executive at Expedient and a co-presenter on this webinar. We're also joined by Kent Holden, our Senior Manager for Technical Support, and Paul Shantz, who is Inside Sales Manager for many of our industrials accounts. So both Kent and Paul are on the call today to help out with questions you may send our way during today's call. So now let's get a couple of sundry items out of the way, if I may. So the first one is that even though you're all muted, we do want to hear from you throughout the presentation and allow you to ask questions. So, that's why Paul and Kent are online today to handle those questions. So feel free at any time during the session, ask questions, and Paul and Kent will do their best to get back to you promptly. The second item is on the GoToWebinar control panel. There's a section called handouts, and you can use this at any time during the session to download those handouts. So there's two handouts available. One is an Invisible Factory white paper, and the second handout is a testimonial from an industrials customer that successfully deployed IndustriOS on the Expedient cloud to gain a number of deployment advantages. Okay, so quick look at the agenda. First of all, we're going to kick things off with a look at the Invisible Factory program, which is the program that houses our cloud and other managed IT offerings. So that's what we're going to kick things off with. Then we'll turn things over to Joe Kudzik to cover who Expedient is, talk about their thought leadership, their service offering, the benefits, their competitive positioning. And Joe will wrap things up on his end with a talk about the infrastructure in an existing industrials on the cloud deployment with Expedient. So once we've gone through this, we're going to have a couple more slides before we get to the questions area. So we're going to just basically show you a listing of the next industrials events that are scheduled for 2017. Before we go on to the question period. Now remember, so this question period will be fueled by the questions you log during the during the session. So now, if we feel, of course, that your questions are general in nature, then we can use your questions to fuel the question period. If we find, of course, that your questions are specific in nature to your organization, then we'll handle those questions privately through the panel, or agree to circle back with you as a follow-up after the session. So again, feel free to use the question panel throughout the duration of the session. Okay, so let's talk about the invisible factory. To help simplify the notion and help you visualize what the invisible factory is, we use the metaphor of a cruise ship. So on a cruise ship, typically you don't want your captain in the bilges or in the galley or in the operations control room. You want your captain on the bridge. Manufacturing firms are quite similar. You don't necessarily want the company founder or owner in the warehouse or the shop floor tracking jobs and parts. The Invisible Factory is a program that's aimed at getting manufacturing owners and executives off the shop floor and free to focus on their core competencies of identifying market opportunities, engineering solutions, and developing business. So an invisible factory accomplishes this by surrounding management and staff with skills that are complementary to theirs so that the day-to-day running of operations and running of the plant becomes quote unquote invisible to ownership. So it's not the data that's invisible, it's just the day-to-day operations. Invisible Factory has influence in 4 areas. So it all starts with software. So you need software that's suited for your industry, software that's integrated, secure, accessible, accurate, complete, preferably complemented by a dashboard to present key metrics information. In the case of IndustriOS, we have the plant gauge manufacturing intelligence dashboard. So from a software standpoint, this is the IndustriOS that most of you are familiar with. Then you have the area of services. So there are 4 types of services that are under this umbrella. So number 1, you've got software implementation and training. So typically, ERP software publishers stop here. They stop at implementing the software and training. Anything above that, normally you're on your own. Here at IndustriOS, we've shown over the years that we'll go above and beyond just implementing the software. And so there's 3 other types of services that we have brought to the table for our customers. One of these is consulting. IndustriOS, we've offered consulting services like business process reengineering, business process mapping, the writing of work instructions. In one case, last year, we helped a customer of ours pass a contract award audit. So again, that's the second type of services, if you will, that IndustriOS can offer you. So that's the consulting. There are 2 others. One of these is advisory services. So advisory services can include reviews of financial statements and key performance indicators to help you gauge accuracy and completeness of the information that IndustriOS is communicating to you. If the targets are not met, our advisors can help offer suggestions to management with respect to actions that could be undertaken to help address certain situations to make sure that you get closer to your targets or that your measurements are more accurate. And finally, coaching and mentoring services. So there's a question that we ask, is it too much to ask your very competent people to change their behavior after one training session per topic just at go live or shortly before go live? In our experience, that's sometimes the case. So that's why we offer coaching and mentoring, which are services that are delivered on a regular basis after go live to support your people and help foster sustainable behavioral change. So this could take the form of one of our mentors attending, for example, production planning meetings on a weekly or bi-weekly basis to help your production manager, your purchasing people get the most out of the tools that are available to him or her inside of IndustriOS to help manage business conditions that are coming their way. So that kind of wraps up the services umbrella, if you will, inside of Invisible Factory. So training, consulting, mentoring, and advisory services. Next, in how Invisible Factory can help influence your performance are managed HR services. So we've had a number of areas of activities here. We've worked with you, our customers, in the past years to help you, for example, write job descriptions, identify potential candidates for openings with you, help you define your org charts. We've even, in some cases, helped some of you get through high volume peak periods or get through year-end tasks that you don't necessarily run through on a regular basis. So the first few year ends or month ends might require some help, and that's an area where we can help from an HR standpoint. Finally, with managed IT is another area that the Invisible Factory is active in. IT infrastructure is an area of major headache for many under-resourced manufacturers. System admin, why not have your system administered by the people who wrote the system you need to administer? Why not take advantage of programs like our Plant Up service? That's a program that helps you plan for, test, train, and install software updates. And finally, the topic of today's webinar, hosted cloud services. This is under the managed IT umbrella of the Invisible Factory. And the intent is to bring you a one-stop shop for all of your ERP software and infrastructure needs. So basically, it all comes together to help you steer towards your objectives. So as I just mentioned, as part of the Invisible Factory, IndustriOS delivers hosted cloud services with its partnership with Expedient. So at this point, I'd like to turn things over to Joe Kutzig from Expedient, who is here to walk us through who Expedient is and what they bring to the table. So so let me see if I can turn this keyboard and mouse over to you, Joe. So I'm going to turn it over to you. So maybe, Joe, you could let me know if you're good to go from a clicking standpoint and say hi to everybody.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jock. Hey, good morning and or good afternoon. I know we have a large audience on the phone. My name is Joe Kutzig from Expedient. I wanted to just thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself and my company and our cloud services in partnership with IndustriOS. Jock, I don't have the clicker, so if you want to click on the next slide, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
So I like to make these presentations pretty informal, little educational, non-salesy. So I'd like to get them fun and interactive also. I wanted to start with a quick overview of Expedient. Expedient is a privately held company. We are headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where I sit. I'm a Pittsburgh native for the most part. We've been around for about 20 years now. We cut our teeth back in the telco days when the 14.4 modems and the 36.6 modems were high speed. That's our foundation. And over the last 15 years or so, we've evolved into the data center space, the cloud space, the managed service space. So again, we provide managed services for about 15 years, year to date. So a couple things about Expedient. We have about 300 employees. Everyone is a W-2 employee. We don't outsource anything. We have no institutional debt. We are debt-free. Our parent company is Landmark Media, and I encourage anyone on the phone who's interested and has maybe 5 minutes later to do a Wikipedia on Landmark Media. It's a great story. It's a family-owned business by the Batten family. Again, privately held, no debt. I like to really reinforce that. We are not for sale. We actually reinvest 65 cents on every dollar we earn back into the company. So a pretty amazing story from the Batten family. As you see on the map, we have 11 locations. We're in the Northeast Midwest corridor of the United States. We own and operate all of our facilities. So we don't outsource to a third party. When you're talking to Expedient, you're talking to Expedient. Everything we do is owned and operated by my company. From a compliance standpoint, this may or may not apply to members on the phone today, but just so you know, if you have any compliance needs, we can usually address it. HIPAA for healthcare, PCI for your credit card customers. I'm sure a lot of you are nodding your heads when I say PCI. FDA, SOC compliancy, Sarbanes-Oxley, FDA approval, to name a few. But we adhere and have attestations for all those compliancies. So if a compliancy need or a compliancy event comes up, please see the IndustriOS team, and they can get in touch with me, and we can talk further about that. And last but not least, our support is 24/7 by 365. We are on staff, not on call. No one has pages or cell phones. We're on staff all the time. New Year's Day, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, you name it. My engineers are staffed around the clock. And it is white glove support. I'm not just saying that. I've been with the company for 7 years now, and I've been in IT my whole life. I've never seen a company do support better in my space than Expedient has. So just a couple bullet points on the company. Next slide, please. Thank you. So again, I want to keep this less salesy and more educational. I want to take a few minutes and a few slides to talk about our thought leadership and how this applies to you as a customer or a partner. Expedient looks at thought leadership into 4 different pillars: agility, availability, cost control, and risk mitigation. We're going to take a little dive into each one of those. And all of our customers that we have today as customer, they're going to connect to one of those or 4 of those or 2 of those, but there's always a driving force that connects our customers to us, and it's going to be one of these 4 pillars or multiple pillars. So agility, respond to change faster. Some of the questions I put up here I want to talk about briefly. IT is always demanded to change, right? You have the ownership group that is always pushing IT to change, move faster, do things more efficiently, right? So we can help with that. Some things that you might hear or we've heard in the field is software upgrades. You might have IndustriOS, or you might be looking at IndustriOS software, and you might have to go through a software upgrade down the road. We can help with that on the infrastructure platform, on the cloud platform. We make those things easier for customers. Maybe you're migrating from an old system. It could be an older IndustriOS software package. It could be an older ERP vendor you're using and you're ready to make a change. Again, we can help with those situations. We're seeing that the IT needs to adapt to the business. An interesting fact, it's not on the slide, but I talk about this every day, so it's in my head. There was a case study done last year in 2016. They interviewed CIOs from all around, small to medium-sized businesses, enterprise businesses, all different sorts. And they list the top 10 CIO priorities of 2016. And when I was viewing this presentation for the first time, my first assumption was cost savings was the number one CIO priority, which I'm sure most of you could probably agree to that. Well, I was dead wrong. That was number 10 on their list. Cost savings is number 10. Number 1 was aligning IT with the business. I'm going to repeat that. The number 1 priority from a CIO last year, of a group of CIOs, was aligning IT with the business. Strategy, right? And number 2, just so you know, was security. But that number 1 is very important because we can help working, when I say we, it's Expedient and IndustriOS, but we can help you align your IT strategy and your IT business with whatever you make. Maybe you're a manufacturer, maybe you produce chemicals, whatever it is, but we can help with that. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the second pillar is availability. And this is pretty standard, pretty straightforward to understand. Expedient builds our business and our data centers and our cloud platform around 100% uptime. We contractually guarantee in our contracts that our systems are up and running 100% of the time. If you do due diligence out there, look at some of the national competitors. They're 99.9, 99.8. I've seen 99.5. That may look good on paper. If you do the math, 99.99 is about 8 hours of downtime a year. And it just gets worse if you go less, obviously. So again, Expedient's 100% uptime. Our customers come to us to host their mission-critical applications and their mission-critical data. Our clients cannot suffer downtime. They cannot be down for minutes, hours, or days. They're losing money, right? What's the cost of downtime? It's different for everyone, but it's usually a large number. Something else we're providing is giving a peace of mind. This sounds a little corny, but I had a client call me last month and say, "Hey, Joe, I just wanted to thank you." And I said, "Oh, you're welcome, but what are you thanking me for?" And he said that he can go to sleep at night on the weekends and not worry about IT. Doesn't have to worry about fixing a motherboard or fixing a hard drive or a blue screen of death for your Windows folks on the phone. He has a peace of mind. That's what we give our clients. And then the other question I threw up there is, what happens if your application is not available? What happens if you're running IndustriOS in-house, as an example, and your hardware fails, or your network goes down, or any of the million things that can happen? What does that do to your business? Those are questions you have to kind of evaluate internally with your leadership group and see how that affects your business. Next slide, please. Cost control is the third pillar. We like to say that we're a predictable monthly operational cost. In the past, the mentality was CapEx, 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 right? Let's spend $100,000 of capital on hardware. Let's buy shiny new boxes. That was the cool thing to do. And I'm a server guy. I cut my teeth on servers, on NT4 boxes in Exchange 5.5 for you, for those of you who go back a couple years. It was cool to buy a server back in the day. It was cool to have that blinking lights in your office. Not so much anymore. So we're seeing a shift. We're seeing less capital spend in IT and more operational. So again, Expedient provides a monthly operational expense. It's predictable. You know what you're going to spend every month with us, X amount of dollars. So it's good for budgeting purposes also. And we kind of touched on this earlier, but I help get clients off of that hardware refresh treadmill, as we call it. What I mean by that is, if you were to go buy, let's use a $100,000 example. If you were to spend $100K in capital expense on hardware, you're going to have to do that again in 3 years or 4 years, right? You keep making that large capital investment. We're getting clients out of that cycle, which has, our feedback is it's been a very good experience from a financial side with most of our customers. And aging hardware doesn't matter anymore. When you leverage cloud services with an Expedient and IndustriOS, you don't have to worry about that old hardware, that aging hardware. It's just everyone's used to just buying hardware, but that now we're seeing a major shift and no one's really buying hardware anymore. IT is more of a utility now. A good example is think about wherever you live. When you go home tonight, you have a power bill. You pay your power bill every month. It's utility. You don't necessarily know where the power is coming from, but you pay a monthly bill and it's always there, right? It's more of a utility. IT is becoming a utility. That's just the way the market is right now. Next slide, please. Risk mitigation. This is one of my favorites, and I'll try to keep it fun and interactive. Everyone's heard about the viruses out there today, the malware, the Bitcoins of the world, ransomware. We've helped many clients who had ransomware, and for those of you who don't know it, ransomware is a malware that will go into your server and your data, and they'll put a lock on it, a padlock on it. And they'll say, hey, Mr. Customer, or hey, Mr. we just hacked you. We're not taking that padlock off your data until you pay us X amount of dollars. So these hackers are all over the world doing this. It's a big thing right now. So when our clients leverage Expedient systems, we have a lot of security in place to help mitigate those things. No one's perfect, but we have a lot of procedures in place that mitigate risk, mitigate viruses, mitigate security breaches, right? Security is the hottest topic right now in IT. So you got to think about these things. If it hasn't happened to you yet, it may happen in the future. If it has happened, it could happen again. And I'm not trying to scare, I'm just trying to be realistic. Viruses are out there, breaches are out there, it's scary. So we can help from a physical security standpoint, from a virtual security standpoint. We can help with breaches and viruses, as I mentioned. And the last point I wanted to mention was compliancy and auditing. This may or may not apply to you. This is back to that compliancy conversation. But we allow our customers and their auditors to visit our data centers. So you may have an auditor come in and say, I want to see where your data resides. I need to do an audit. We welcome that. We help your auditors through that process, right? I have a large pharmaceutical company in Boston, Massachusetts. You know who they are. I can't say them by name. We're under NDA with all of our clients. But a large pharma company in Boston, they were with Amazon 5-6 years ago. And they actually left Amazon to come to Expedient. And the driving force was they were audited, and Amazon said, no, you guys cannot come into our data centers. We can't show you things. They're very tight covered, keep the blankets tight. We're the opposite. We allow people in, we allow auditors in. It's all a managed process, of course, and very secure, but we allow auditors to come in and customers to come into the data center. So may or may not apply to you, but it's worth noting that we have that functionality. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I promised you a non-salesy presentation, and I hope it's been that so far. I do have one salesy slide, though. I had to put it in there. I didn't talk a lot about what I do, and I did that purposely. So at a high level, this is a 30,000-foot airplane view. We're a cloud provider. We offer 3 types of clouds: public, private, and private on-premise. Public cloud is going to meet 95% of clients' needs. When I say public cloud, and by the way, this terminology means different things to different people. I'm telling you what it means to us. Our public cloud is multi-tenancy. So we have this large platform built out that multiple customers are using to get economies of scale, but they're dedicated resources. So if I were to carve out RAM, CPU, and storage for your application, it would be dedicated to you. Even though you're sharing the hardware with other customers, it's dedicated resources. I have hospitals that run on our public architecture. So don't let the word public scare you. It meets all the compliancy needs, security needs of most companies. Again, it's multi-tenancy with dedicated resources. You have your own space on a platform like that. The next one is private. Private is just how it sounds. There's no multi-tenancy. We would build you a private cloud. A little more expensive, but we have some clients who do require that. And last, we have everything I talked about was the cloud at Expedient. And that's what we do, and we do it very well. We have the data centers, we have the security, we have the experience, we do a lot of hosting. Now we're shifting gears for certain clients and putting the cloud at the customer site. I'm going to repeat that. We're putting the cloud on the customer site in certain situations now. So we would use our same philosophy, our same standards, our same platform. We would build you a private cloud environment, literally forklift it to your office or your data center and manage it for you, but it physically sits in your office. We're members of Gartner, 451, and Wikibon research companies. All 3 companies told us this is what they're seeing in the market, and we are right there. We are on the brink of doing things that no one else has done before. So it's very exciting space. It's not for everyone, but we are putting the cloud on the customer premise also. Like I said, to recap, 95% of my clients are going to be public, but there are other options out there. And if we look to the right side, I looked at a few managed services, and I was joking with Jacques the other day. I didn't scratch the surface with this slide. I'm just giving you a high-level overview. We probably offer 300-400 different SKUs and managed services. I just picked 5 or 6 to show you. So once you host with us and bring your IndustriOS application into Expedient, if you choose to, we can layer in managed services. And they're a la carte. You can pick and choose what you want. OS health and availability is one of them. So what that means is we're making sure the operating system is always up and always running. It's always healthy. The heartbeat's always there. Things are running solid, right? And for those IT folks on the phone, we're not locking you out of the system. You still have full access into the OS. We're just there at 3 o'clock in the morning, or for Patch Tuesday. We're there all the time helping you. We actually want IT staff involved. Our best customer has IT staff that's there with us. So we're not trying to take anyone's jobs or anything. Backups would be another option. We have a plethora of options: long-term storage, archival storage, off-site backups, custom retentions. List goes on and on. We offer firewall and load balancing as a service, so you don't have to spend X amount of dollars on a firewall or a load balancer anymore. We provide it as a service. It's a virtual appliance, and we manage it for you. Microsoft licensing. This is a big one. I haven't looked at pricing lately from Microsoft, but you know, if you were to buy, you know, let's say Windows licensing, it might be a couple $100, up to a couple $1,000, you know, per server, depending on what flavor you have and what model you have. We're talking thousands of dollars most likely. We offer as a monthly fee. It's actually built into the cost already. So we're giving you licensing out of the gate for Windows. Terminal server also. If you need RDS licensing, again, I don't know what it costs these days, but we charge you a small monthly fee. You're not buying a $100 license per customer or per user. We're charging you a fraction of that on a monthly going basis. So there's a lot of economies of scale you can provide with licensing. You don't have to buy that. Remember, it's that CapEx to OpEx shift. You don't have to spend that CapEx anymore. You can make it an operational expense. Disaster recovery. Let me just say a thing about this real quick, and we can move on. DR is huge right now. What cloud was 5-6 years ago, the buzzword, and now how big it is today, that's what DR is right now. DR is really popular, a lot of buzz going around DR. For those of you who don't know, disaster recovery is just like what it sounds like. If you're let's say you're hosting your IndustriOS software in Expedient, all is well. You're hosting in our Pittsburgh facility, as an example. If Godzilla came out of the water, as an example, and wiped out Pittsburgh, you would want to have disaster recovery in place. So DR is just using another Expedient data center for geographic diversity. Again, Godzilla is far-fetched, but you know, I've seen crazier things happen. So DR is protecting your data in a different location. It's not just backups off-site. It's different than that. It's, hey, Godzilla comes out of the water, wipes out Pittsburgh. I can push a button. IT can literally push a button, and IndustriOS is running in a different data center in a few minutes. It's really cool technology. So that's DR. That's separate from backups. Backups are one thing, DR is another thing. And if we could take it offline, if anyone wants to have a conversation about backups versus DR, because it's a really interesting conversation. Security is the last service I wanted to touch on. And again, I'm not going to bore everyone, but we have multiple layers of security. We have a la carte services. You can be as secure as you want to be with us. Out of the gate is a lot of security, but you can layer in other things, like two-factor authentication. Maybe you want your users to go to their cell phone to get a PIN before they log into IndustriOS. Maybe you don't. I don't know. That's a decision made by the business themselves, but we have a lot of services like that we can layer in if needed. So next slide, please. Thank you. So this slide looks a little confusing at first, but let's just talk through it. I entitled this Lines of Demarcation. And let's just talk through it real quick. You see the two black triangles in the middle. You have the Expedient triangle, and then you have the customer triangle. That customer triangle could be someone on the phone, or it could be IndustriOS themselves, but just think of that as being the customer. And then on the left side, you see the red, you see the red text. We call that a stack. If you start at the bottom, you have your power, your floor space, your cooling, your generators, that kind of stuff, right? That's the very foundation of the stack. Moving up, you have servers, networking, and storage, right? That's the cloud. Then you have the hypervisor. For those of you who may not know, hypervisor is, you've heard of VMware or Hyper-V, I'm sure. It's just a software layer. It's a software layer of the cloud. And you have your operating system, your Windows, your Linux servers. You have Expedient managed apps. We manage very few apps, and there's a reason why. We're experts in the infrastructure and the cloud, but we do like Active Directory, terminal server management, Exchange management for your email, things like that. And then you have your customer managed apps. That's your IndustriOS, right? That's your ERP. That's your bread and butter. So as you can see with the triangles, our triangle is very heavy at the bottom. We're experts in all the infrastructure. And then in the customer triangle, you guys are very heavy with the application, right? That could be you or IndustriOS. And I just want to remind everyone. And then you have that space in between. It's kind of a light gray area. That's a sliding scale. So as an example, you may say, hey, Expedient, I want you to manage everything up to the OS. Remember, we're not touching the application. But you might say, I want you to manage everything else. Okay. Or another customer might say, hey, Expedient, I'll take care of the operating system and the hypervisor, because I'm a VMware guy. Just take care of everything below that. Okay. It's a sliding scale. The takeaway is we're flexible. We tailor our solutions for our customers. And the last takeaway is we don't touch the application. So you're going to need to rely on IndustriOS and their expertise to help you manage that. But it's a great marriage. Expedient's experts in the architecture and the infrastructure. IndustriOS is experts in the software, obviously. And then you have the customer, who's the end user, who runs the software. This is a SaaS model, right? You've heard the term SaaS before. This is how a SaaS model works. There's a few players involved. Everyone's experts in what they do. All the end user sees is the application, and they know it runs. They know it's always up and running, and it runs fast. That's a simple SaaS model broken down for you in a little more detail. We can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So, a few benefits. We touched on a few of these, but just to recap, you're gaining a partnership with the IndustriOS Expedient relationship. You know, it may sound a little corny, but I know I can speak for IndustriOS also. We like to be that trusted advisor, right? We want to be there. We want to help you as a customer and solve your problems. The uptime we talked about, our guarantee is 100% uptime. That's our SLA. It's in our contracts. We have 2 pages of language around our SLA. We're giving you geodiversity. So think about it. You might want your application closer to you or further away. You may want DR, disaster recovery, further away or closer. You can kind of pick and choose where you want to be with us. And that brings up a good point. In all the examples I was showing before with the cloud, there's another example. Let's say you're already hosting IndustriOS let's say you bought a bunch of brand new hardware and you're running IndustriOS already, and you don't want to touch that hardware for 3 or 4 years. That's fine. We could still do disaster recovery for you. So you could still run IndustriOS at your office if you wanted to, and we could still do DR back to another data center of Expedience. There are some caveats there with it has to be a VMware Hyper-V based, but just keep that in mind. If you already bought hardware, we can still help you with disaster recovery solutions. You know, another benefit is getting out of the hardware business, right? Getting out of the hardware treadmills, we call it. Every 3 years, we don't want you spending the capital outlay. We're giving you a predictable monthly spend. Free up time to focus on your business. You know, it's a great example. We have a case study with Domino's Pizza. And for the record, Domino's is a very large company. That's not our... We're more in this SMB space, the same space you guys are in. But we did a case study with Domino's. And back in about 5 years ago, sales started to dip for them. And they hired all these experts to come in and look at everything. And 2 years later, sales started shooting up like a hockey stick. Um, and the outcome was they started outsourcing IT. And what actually happened was Domino's makes pizzas, as we all know. And they've gotten better, by the way, if you've noticed. But Domino's, they make pizzas. They put their time and effort and staff into making the pizza, not fixing a hard drive, fixing a motherboard, fixing a power supply, or doing a patch on Sunday nights. They made their staff focus on pizza. IT focused on pizza. So that shift, that 2-year shift where sales started to skyrocket, was because they started outsourcing IT. They moved everything out into a data center and hosted it and had someone manage it for them. So again, free up time to focus on your business. That's where you're going to make money for your company. Compliancy I talked about already, and a peace of mind we mentioned. We help our clients have a we try to make our clients' life easier from an IT perspective. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is very generic. There's a lot of competitors out there. I will say in our local markets, which you already saw the map, and I can go over them again if we need to. In our local markets, we are the leader. I don't say that to be boastful. I say that just because we know our business, we know our customers, we know what we can do for them. From a competitive landscape, there are a lot of competitors. Again, this is very generic, but some highlights of why we're different. Our people. Our management team has been around, our average tenure is 17 years of our management staff. CEO down to the CIO, CFO, etc. 17-year tenure. They've been together for that long of an average. Privately held, we have no debt. Talked about that, right? Again, I need to just stress that. We're reinvesting 65 cents, I believe that's the current number, 65 cents of every dollar back into the company. So that just goes to show that we're growing organically. We're not for sale. We are moving forward. This is our core business. We give clients full access into the operating system and their application. I've seen other providers limit that. So IT might not be able to get into the OS, or IT might not be able to access IndustriOS to a full extent. We give you full access into the OS and the application. Our approach is different. We tailor our solutions. I have no price sheet. I have no pricing standards. We build our solutions tailored for our customers. That doesn't mean it's expensive. It actually means the opposite. With some of those big box retailers that you know of, the Amazons, the Azures of the world, great companies. They have, obviously, they're monster companies, but they have a certain niche. Amazon's niche is development, startup companies, spin up a server, spin down a server. They do that very, very well. If you want to spin up and spin down a server, Amazon all day long. If you want to run your enterprise ERP, your mission critical industrial software all the time on a great platform, we're a better fit. And when I talk about tailored solutions, what I'm saying is the Amazons of the world make you fit into a box. If you go on the web page and look at their pricing model, they make you fit in different boxes. X amount of RAM, Y amount of compute, so on and so forth. So you have to upgrade in a path that might not make sense. You might need more RAM, but not more disk. You might need more of this, but not more of that. They make you upgrade in those strict boxes. We're the opposite. We build a solution. We work with IndustriOS. We build a solution to right size it. And if you need to grow in the future, you can just add a little more RAM, add a little more disk, add a little more this, a little more that. We can tweak it out and tailor it for you. I talked about our support already. We outperform the national competition in performance. I have documentation from a third party to back that up. If anyone wants to see that, please see the IndustriOS team, and I can get that in your hands. And then we can physically show a client their cloud. And again, this is big. if your owner wanted to come down and look at the cloud, or your auditors, or maybe your customers. So my customers' customers come in all the time and look at the cloud. We can physically show the client, your client or a client, the cloud. Next slide, please. So I'm almost done, everyone on the phone, just so you know. This is a case study I wanted to talk about for a few minutes, and Jacques, feel free to chime in when needed. We host for many customers, but we took a particular IndustriOS Cloud customer hosted at Expedient. They're hosted at Expedient Pittsburgh, where I sit. That's their primary data center. But before we get into the details, I just want to paint a picture for you. This customer that we're talking about, he was a new IT director. He got a new job as an IT director for this company. Walked into existing setups, existing IT was already in place. They had old hardware. They were running slow. They had to upgrade the industrial software. Their CEO wanted to go to the cloud. There was a lot of stuff going on. I walked in with this gentleman, had a few meetings. We built a plan for them, did some whiteboard sessions. Fast forward today, they've been a customer for about, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years now. They got out of the hardware business, so they're not buying any hardware anymore. They're using our cloud. They are upgrading easier with IndustriOS from a software perspective. They're running faster. And this is all feedback from the customer. This is direct feedback. They're running faster on our platform than in-house. I want to repeat that. They're running faster at Expedient than having the server sit in their closet. So we totally changed the landscape in a good way, and we have a very happy customer running IndustriOS, the one we're talking about on the slide right now. So a couple things. They're using our cloud. They're using our public cloud. Remember, it's multi-tenant, but it has dedicated resources. We're doing load balancing for them, firewalling. We're managing terminal server for them. We're managing the OS for them. So all the patching, the antivirus software, that kind of stuff. We're doing backups for them off-site. We're putting backups in our Indianapolis, Indiana data center. So this is a bird's eye view, but we're doing a lot for them. They're running maybe 10 servers or so, maybe a little more. Interestingly enough, when they brought over IndustriOS and they were happy, they brought everything else over too. So this client had a few more servers in their office, and Exchange, file server. He had another application, I don't know what it was, but he eventually decommissioned all those servers in his office and added a few more servers with us. So now everything's at Expedient. So it's not, just keep in mind that it's a migration path for a larger plan too, if you wanted to do that. So Jacques, do you want to add anything to this slide?
No, Joe, I don't think so. I think that's a very good overview of Expedient, of what you bring to the table. We're certainly pumped about the opportunity to be partnering with you. I'm grateful for your hockey stick analogies. That's very gracious of you towards our Canadian audience here,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, it's all good. I think what I'd like to do at this point, I'd like to go ahead and run a quick poll of the audience. So let me see if I can do this. So, okay, so apparently the poll is in progress. So the poll question would be, and for some reason, oh, I'm sorry, poll. Must be close to enable screen sharing. Ah, so we should be seeing a poll screen shortly.
I see it. It's up right now.
Oh, is it? Okay. All right.
Well,
Thank you. So the question is, are companies considering moving to the cloud? I believe I don't even see the question on the screen, but I think that's
yeah,
what it is. And it's,
Josh, I
your
think
answers, it's multiple choice. So next 3 months, 3 to 6, 6 to 12, did not know it was possible, not under consideration. So those are the available potential answers. Uh, and so I'm going to let this run for a few more seconds now. We've got some answers that have come in. And so I'm going to shut this poll down in 3, 2, 1, and thank you very much. So the poll is complete. Again, thanks for your participation here. So, all right. So before we go on to questions, just want to give everybody a feel for what we've got planned from a webinar event standpoint in 2017. So there's a number of events. I'm going to walk through this fairly quickly. We're kind of running out of time. So on April 5th, there's a webinar describing in more detail the Invisible Factory program that I talked about earlier and how our customers are taking advantage of Invisible Factory. Then there's the What's New series of webinar. And I say series because there's so many enhancements in version 3.6, we've chosen to present the enhancements in 4 separate events to make sure that each event or each area had the appropriate level of depth. So on May 3rd, we're going to cover order to cash. On June 14, procure to pay. On August 23rd, inventory warehousing. And on December 13, plan to production. Okay, so 4 events to cover the breadth of the IndustriOS application on those dates. Then on October 25, so on October 25, we've got a session on how manufacturers can use Plant Gauge to foster employee engagement. And finally, the last item on the table is a program called The More You Know, and we're going to be launching this in January of 2018. And what The More You Know is a series of educational short videos, educational and or informational short videos aimed at providing insight on, how to tackle certain tasks in industrial. So basically, at this point, just stay tuned for announcements for all of these upcoming events. So one last poll before we go to questions. And so which one of these events? This is a multiple choice question. Which of these events are you interested in attending? And it's a multiple choice, multiple answer. So you can pick a number of these. And I can see that you folks are getting the picture, answers are coming in. So this is good. Thanks for that. I'm going to let this up for another few seconds yet. So which of the following events are you interested in attending? And so that's it. 3, 2, 1, and closing. So at this point, I think I have the option of sharing, and forgive me, I'm kind of new at this polling thing, but hopefully you can see that there's quite a bit of interest in Invisible Factory. Order to cash, procure to pay's got 44%, inventory 78% of you have interest. and plan to production 89% interest. So good results. Thanks for participating. So at this point, we're going to move back to the slide presentation, move into the questions. I'm going to get my bearings here and see what kind of poll questions we had throughout the session. Let's see what we have here. So the first question we had was with respect to cloud outages. Joe, this is probably a question for you. So there's a lot of news out there, and I know you touched on this already, but maybe you could recap. So there have been a lot of news about outages from some of the main players in the industry. How does IndustriOS and Expedient address this? Do you want to take that, Joe?
Sure. Yeah. No, great question. This comes up all the time. So I know this is a repeat, but everything that we do, every service we provide for our customers is wrapped around a 100% SLA uptime guarantee. That's in our contracts. Some of our clients elect to add more services like disaster recovery, right, or offsite backups, etc. I can say that no one's perfect, but we run a very, very tight ship. And I've been here for 7 years, and I've never had a major problem with any of my customers or my colleagues' customers. You might have a situation where a virus hits someone, and it's a very concentrated. It affects 1 or 2 customers, but never been dark, never had a major outage. If you want to talk offline about this, I'm happy to talk about it in more detail too.
Good. Okay. Well, thanks for that, Joe. At this point, I think we should probably wrap things up. We've overextended our welcome here. We really thank each and every one of you for attending the session today. Hopefully you found it of value, and we look forward to hearing back from you. So thanks again, and happy manufacturing, everyone.